I want to welcome you all to the second day of the 2020 Delmarva Soil Summit and thank everyone for coming today. My name is Jen Nelson and I'm one of the conference organizers along with the Sussex Conservation District, Future Harvest, Delaware State University, and Northeast SARE. Separately, we provide education and outreach to farmers on soil health issues, but we tend to focus on different audiences, so different production types, different farm sizes, etc. But we came together to put on this conference because we figured that we could both benefit from the additional help, and also because there's actually a lot of overlap in the interests and needs of farmers that we serve. So we established the goal of this conference to provide information that you can take back to your farm, whether you farm 2 acres or 2,000 acres, or more or less. So if you look at the agenda, you'll see that we've kind of loosely divided it into 2 tracks. There's a track for larger scale commodity production farmers and smaller scale diversified production types, but those aren't written in stone. You know, you can kind of visit whatever sessions look like they're a good fit for you. So with that, I wanted to start the day off with a note of gratitude to all the farmers in the audience, because I'm not a farmer myself, but I do like to eat and drink and wear clothes, and but I don't have a very good track record of growing plants, so this is a plant that's actually in my care. I did not abuse it for the purposes of taking this photo. And so I just wanted to start there to say that truly, I can't thank you all enough, because if it were up to me, I just don't have any delusion that I would not starve to death. So I wanted to start to take a few minutes this morning to set the stage by sharing a few things that I think farmers in this room have in common when it comes to soil health. So the first thing that I recognize in talking with the farmers that I work with is that all businesses need to be profitable, okay? So there's a lot of different ways to get to that outcome, I think we all recognize, but it needs to happen, otherwise you won't be in business for long. And I think that that's kind of the first point to start with, that everybody recognizes that, even when we're talking about soil health and all the benefits that you get from that. But there's 2 points that go along with that. And the first is, one thing that I'm starting to hear is that there's less of a focus necessarily on yield and more on profitability. You know, those 2 things are related, of course, but they're not the same thing. And I've heard over the past couple of years, as we've been talking through things with people, that there's a recognition that that's the case, that we're talking about the cost of inputs and things like that. And also that profitability isn't just specific to this year, it's something that we're looking to do year over year. You know, we're looking at the long term. So soil health is an investment, which I think, you know, people recognize as well. The second point that I have is that the same soil processes and functions happen in all different kinds of systems. So the basic soil principles of keeping a living root and maximizing diversity and minimizing disturbance and so forth, you know, they apply to all different production types. And the other way that I think of it is the nitrogen cycle is as an example here. So I know it's early, people probably need more coffee before they're looking at a graph like this. But one thing that I liked about this graph in particular is that it shows how much soil microbes are involved in every step of this process. They're necessary in every step of this process. So here we're looking at some kind of, I don't know, it's a rabbit bamboo soybean system. It's really entertaining when you look at nitrogen cycle photos to see like what they've chosen to represent the animals and plants and things. But it works in every kind of production system. So this is happening, the same processes, the same actors are happening, whether you're looking at a conventional system or a strip till system or an organic system, you know, it happens across the board. So conventional farmers for a time, I think, had focused a lot on the chemistry of soils and agronomic systems. But I think we're starting to understand that it's soil biology that unlocks that chemistry. And so everybody kind of recognizes that conventional farmers need soil biology and organic farmers need soil chemistry, so it all ties together. The third point that I have is that a lot of farmers that I know don't like to talk about sustainability exactly, like that's a word that's kind of loaded, it has a lot of different meanings and things like that. But they do sometimes talk about the importance of legacy, which gets to me to kind of the same thing. So if you're in the audience and you're a farmer, maybe you're lucky enough to see this from a multi-generational perspective, where your family's been farming the same land for some time, and you would like to pass it on to your kids as well. So for our third or fourth generation farmers that can look back like that, you can kind of picture what it's like to project that far into the future. And what I hope you're asking is, am I farming this land in such a way that my kids can farm this land, that my grandkids can farm this land, and so forth. So finally, I think one thing that I hear a lot that people have in common is that it's hard to define or measure soil health. In a way, at least, that's meaningful for us in our unique region here on Delmarva. So how do you know if you have good soil health or bad soil health? What do you measure? What's the bar? And to this point, the photo that I have here on the right isn't directly related to soil health. I pulled it off the internet. It has to do with a manual that's looking at soil color in different regions. So if you looked at that picture and started kind of categorizing those into different, like good soil, bad soil, soil color is one component, it's related, but it's very regionally variable. It's, there's a lot of components to it, and I think that that's one thing that we struggle with a little bit here. So I thought a good place to start there was with the NRCS definition of soil health, which I think everybody's probably familiar with as the continued capacity of soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans, which I think is a great start. I think it sounds good, it feels right, but it's really hard to pin down. Okay, so some people think this definition is a little incomplete, that it should include a water quality component, that it should include off-farm benefits maybe. And when I look at this, I tend to focus, I think, on the word capacity. And how do you measure capacity? Much less, how would you measure continued capacity? So, just how do you know when you have reached that point? And the things that you might try to measure are really specific to place and time. There are different regions, but even within our own region, we have different soil types, we have different weather from year to year, we have different crop rotations, and even I think people's expectations of what they're looking for from their system and how the outcomes that they have stack up against that, plays into it too. So it's really subjective sometimes. So one of the things that I like is this idea of continuous improvement. So I borrowed this from sustainability efforts like Field to Market and Land to Lake Sustain and things like that, where they're looking to provide a modest premium to farmers for adopting soil health practices and things like that. And the idea is this, that good soil health isn't necessarily viewed as a pass or fail. That you think of it as a spectrum or a continuum, and your management and soil health fit somewhere on that. And so wherever you enter into this, you start where you're at and you look for opportunities to improve the management on your farm. So you might be familiar with a saying that says you can't manage what you don't measure. And within the soil health framework, there are metrics that you can look to. There is less disturbance. There's more diversity. There's living roots and soil cover throughout the year. There's less compaction. Better weed control. More pollinators and beneficial insects. More resilient to drought or too much rain. Fewer inputs. More profitability. And so my point here is to be looking for those opportunities that move your operation in that right direction. So I'm almost done. But I wanted to share this article that I saw on a Forbes website that listed 14 things that successful people have in common. And I pulled a few of their points that I thought applied to the farmers that I've worked with. And so I'll pause here for a second so that you can look through them. And hopefully at this conference, you'll find some of those right people that you can reach out to for the right questions and the people who can deliver those right answers. Or maybe you're one of the folks that can deliver the right answers to someone else. So you can decide if these sound familiar to you or describe you, but I just wanted to go back to where I started at the beginning with my really sad plant and thank everybody who is working to be the kind of farmer or supporting farmers who are trying to do that and move their farm in the right direction. So my last slide, I just wanted to acknowledge again, the conference organizers. I wanted to recognize the planning committee. If you're on the planning committee, can you raise your hand? Thank you, guys. Our sponsors, the exhibitors, hopefully everybody's had a chance to visit or will have a chance to visit with them today. And one last thank you to the attendees. So, appreciate you. And with that, I'm going to introduce David Baird, who will give some remarks from the Sussex Conservation District.
So it's very wonderful to see so many faces out in the crowd this morning, and really expanding on the second day of our Soil Summit. When we started with this idea that we could take this project on, we did so somewhat reluctantly, but the more we got into it and started working with all the partners, we knew that this is something that we could help to make a success, and thanks to all of you in the room, we're able to do that. I just want to give everybody a little bit of a background on how the Sussex Conservation District got involved with this whole soil health effort and movement, some of the words that people use. But about 5 years ago, back in 2015, NRCS was really starting to promote the whole soil health initiative that they had. And we just saw this as an opportunity. We've got a number of ag planners on our staff, many of which are sitting over here to my right. As they were out in the field talking with the cooperators around Sussex County, they knew that there was an appetite for more information as it related to soil health or cover crop information. So we said, look, this is a perfect opportunity. This is what we're here to do. This is an easy way for us to serve the population here in Sussex County. So first thing we did was had a couple of internal conversations. Once again, we thought we were a little crazy for taking this on, but if somebody doesn't tell us we can't do it, we're of the mindset, well, why not? Let's give it a try. So that's how we got here. And we assembled a group of farmers along with a couple of members of our staff and some other partners. And we just had a conversation in our office of saying, look, we're reading that there's an appetite, is there? And the overwhelming response that we got back was yes. And from that point on, the soil health effort and initiative by the Sussex Conservation District was born, and I have to give a lot of credit to Director of Ag Programs, Debbie Absher, who many of you have met, for really staying the course on this and being a true champion and believer that we could make things like this happen. So the very first workshop that we had, I'll be honest with you, we were flying by the seat of our pants to some degree. The only kind of rehearsal we had done was we had gone out to the Sussex Tech, the technical high school outside of Georgetown here, and given a presentation to their ag class. And I have to tell you, it was an overwhelming failure. We just looked at one another afterwards and said, wow, we have a lot of work to do. So we went back to the drawing board a little bit, fine-tuned what we had, and then had our first workshop out at Extension here in Georgetown, which was right next door to the same high school where we had our first effort. And that first session, I'd say we had about 50 people there, and we were even overwhelmed by that response. But we had a very diverse group of people there. We had farmers, we had environmental folks from the poultry industry, we had state agency folks, we had NRCS folks. And it was really just a good mix, but most importantly, we had great feedback and exchanges throughout that first day. And about halfway through the session, we were all kind of looking at one another and knew we were on to something that would have some success. And based on the feedback that we got from that session, we asked folks, what more do you want to hear? And from that point on, we never had to really seek hard for topics for future agendas. We just listened to what people wanted and made sure that the information was there to provide to them. And that's one of the things that the district has done, is that we have never viewed ourselves as the experts in the field of soil health or even a lot of the cover crop work that's going on, but we knew we had access to folks that we could bring in and let them present information on really any of those topics and let people make up their own minds on what works best for them and their operation and to help them achieve their goals. So I'm very proud of the work that we've done over the last couple of years. That first session that we had out at Extension has turned into 4 events a year. We have our Winter Soil Health Workshop Series, which has an event in December, and then we work with our folks at the Department of Agriculture and Extension on Ag Week at the Harrington Fairgrounds, where we have a big soil health event, many of which I believe you've attended. And then usually in February, we'll have a smaller event. This year, it's blossomed into the Soil Summit. And I can't think of a better way to really cap off our Winter Soil Health Workshop Series than with the 2020 Delmarva Summit here at Del Tech with all of you in attendance. And with that being said, I just want to thank each and every one of you for your support over the years, whether you're an attendee or a partner. We couldn't have done it without you. I'm glad to see this room as full as it is. It really says a lot for the work that we've been trying to do, and thank you for helping us fulfill our mission.
Thanks, Dave. And now I'm going to invite Niamh Shortt to the mic to give some remarks from Future Harvest.
Well, good morning. So my name is Niamh Shortt. I'm the Field School Director at Future Harvest. And Jen did such a great job with some of the opening remarks. So really what I'll focus on for this section here is to talk a little bit about some of the soil health research projects that we've actually just started this year that are really exciting, and we think that some of you might be interested in being a part of, and some of you already are. So first, let's just start by saying thanks actually also to, we forgot to mention yesterday that the first Soil Summit was co-hosted by University of Maryland Eastern Shore in 2018, and I wanted to say a big thank you to Baird Rogers for helping us make that happen. So we're really pleased to see that that idea has moved forward, and it has been so exciting to work with the Delaware Soil Health Partnership, Sussex Conservation District, and Delaware State University to make this second one happen. So let's say that soil health is a topic as old as agriculture itself. Our understanding of good soil health practices is still evolving and improving. We know that good soil management leads to more nutrient retention, reduced runoff, fewer inputs, lower costs, and increased resilience to severe weather patterns, not to mention the added bonus of erosion control and carbon sequestration. While there are many benefits to soil health improvements, we recognize that the way forward is still riddled with challenges, such as slugs, weeds, and metrics, which we've been talking about in the research sessions yesterday, and as Jen mentioned this morning, we do have metrics, but there's still some information we need to do to figure out how to make them corroborate with each other. And so our being here today and yesterday demonstrates a shared commitment to advance not just our understanding, but also our implementation of soil health best practices. While Future Harvest has historically worked with small to mid-scale farms, which remains near and dear to our hearts, we are excited about our new efforts and partnerships that help us expand our research, or expand our reach to begin working more closely with large-scale farms and research. We all share in common a strong sense of stewardship for the land and a desire to grow the best possible crops we can. While Future Harvest is an agricultural organization that operates in the Chesapeake region, we support and promote farming that is profitable, protects our land, water, and climate, and strengthens our communities. And we do this through farmer and consumer education programs, advocacy, and most recently, on-farm research. So this past year, we launched with 5 other partners the Million Acre Challenge, and with 2 other partners, the Great Grain Project. The Million Acre Challenge, or the MAC, is a multi-pronged project with the long-term goal of reaching no fewer than 1 million acres in regenerative production in Maryland by 2030. Activities in this project include 4 main components. First, a soil health benchmarking study, which we began this year. It will provide farmers with in-depth information about the health of their soils and identify key soil health practices that can be implemented on farms producing a range of commodities. It is an extension of the PASA soil health benchmarking study. The The second component, peer-to-peer farmer education on key practices and technical assistance to increase adoption and regenerative management. Third, develop a set of business models to demonstrate how increased soil health metrics can improve farmers' profitability and mitigation risk. And fourth, to influence consumer decision-making by creating awareness of and demand for food grown in healthy soils. So this program is just getting started, and we'd love to have your input and participation. I'd like to introduce a few people that are major parts of this project. So Amanda Cather is the project director for this grant. If Amanda could, yep, there we go, woohoo. So Lisa Garfield is coordinating the soil health benchmarking study. If she could stand and wave, great. Arjun Makejani is the business component piece for this. Thank you, Arjun. And Shelby Com is here with Fair Farms, and they're doing a public outreach. Chesapeake Bay Foundation, Elizabeth Beggins is here with the Soil Hub parts and components for this. So we have a great team working on this grant, and actually, I wanted also to mention that Sarah's here with PASA. So they're the creators of the soil health benchmarking study, and this is their 4th year doing it. There's a poster out in the hallway next to the Future Harvest stand, actually across the wall, that has some of the preliminary results for this, if you would like to take a look. They have almost 100 farms already involved in their first 4 years, and Future Harvest currently started this year with 13 farms in the first year, and we'll be adding a lot more farms to come. It's a 10-year grant, and what's really exciting about this is that it's actually creating the metrics to see if certain soil health practices actually result in increased outcomes for your soil health. So it's a data-based study that really will help to verify which practices do help your farm increase your soil health benefits. And so then the second grant that we've been working on specific to soil health that's really exciting is the Great Grain Project. It's a research project in partnership with University of Maryland College Park and University of Maryland Extension, designed to help grain farmers interested in benefiting from the higher prices of organic grain by transitioning parts of their land to organic production in ways that are the most efficient, profitable, and with the best soil health outcomes. There will be a 4-year research project led by Dr. Ray Weil, free consultations with farmers that are experienced in the transition process, and a transitional buyer directory, plus on-farm workshops to help share information and peer-to-peer learning. If you're interested in learning more about this or participating, please reach out to Dr. Ray Weil. Is Dr. Weil here today? No, I think he said he had to teach, perhaps. But I know that Dr. Sarah Hirsch is another person involved that you could reach out to. Is Sarah here this morning? Yeah, there's Sarah. Great. And, or myself, and there's information at the Future Harvest exhibitor table, both about the soil health benchmarking study, the Million Acre Challenge, and the Great Grain Project. So feel free to take flyers and information. We have one of our mentors, actually 2 of our mentors for that project in the room. I'd like to thank Aaron Cooper with Cut Fresh Organics, and Stephen with Mason's Heritage Farm. Both are mentors in this program. And so just lastly here, so as you can see, there's a lot happening in the soil health sphere, and there's much work to be done. Today's program is a solid step in the direction of pooling knowledge, resources, and energy for the sake of our soils. Thank you all for being here today, and I hope that you all take something away from the program new that you can use on your farms or in your outreach to farmers. And lastly, another thank you to the sponsors, to the exhibitors that have come today, and to all of you for being here. Thanks.